Right. So, so today I suggest that we talk about inner significance, but you may have a different topic or something pressing that you'd like to replace it with, we can add, or instead add to it. But anyway, so we'll start on that.
Yep.
Um, some anecdotes is that before we get started, Elon Musk. Did you see how he was basically kind of like destroying this woke female interviewer? Okay, so anyway, he just roasted her like Jordan Peterson style.
Okay.
Just left her crippled up and then cleaning up the mess afterwards. Like, you know, it was a vicious takedown that's going on everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the interesting things he said was is that she was like, yeah, you're promoting the alt right, far right, whatever. And he said, yeah, you mean the normal people,
Good one.
right?
Yeah.
And she was, what do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the normal people.
Yeah.
And those are the good people.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, no. But anyway, he went on to describe about how things have been shifting. And he was telling about a person who was going around saying, look at these quotes from Trump. What do you think? Oh, he's a fascist, a far-right Nazi. Well, actually, that was Obama said that.
Oh, right.
And then, what do you think about this one?
Right.
Oh, he's horrible. He's terrible, that Trump. Well, that was actually from Hillary Clinton. Right? So anyway, he's just calling out that they don't know what they're talking about. No. But anyway, what was interesting is that we've talked about this. The far right actually means the epitome of adulthood. The
Yeah,
far,
the spectrum thing.
the political spectrum.
Yeah.
The far left are the lowest level of emotional maturity in adulthood, which is pathological narcissists. And the far right is actually the epitome of adulthood and high levels of emotional maturity, where there does not exist, overt racism and large government. And anyway, that's what he was saying. So now all of a sudden he's verbalizing this, and he's one of the most well-known people in the world. So what I'm saying is that I started talking to the Libertarian Party of Canada leader, and I'm saying to him, dude, the time is ripe.
Yes.
I mean, if you develop a philosophy based around what he just said,
Yeah.
and I have it already,
Yeah.
I have been working on it for years.
Mm-hmm.
I could talk to him for 24 hours straight without interruption.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm saying we need to talk about branding because the time is right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is.
But right now you're going absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
So anyway, he said, actually, you know what? You're like the 100th person that's told me that they know how to brand this and everything else. He said, but none of them want to do anything. None of them actually want to put in the work. They're just telling me what to do.
Yeah.
But I said,
Armchair people.
yeah,
Armchair people.
yeah, right. But I told him, I said, I've actually put in hundreds of hours of work on my own.
Right.
It's already there. So anyway, we'll see what happens.
Good. Yeah, but like I said before, it's the DC1 party. If they had a philosophy, here's what it could be.
That's right. That's right.
And they're close. They're sort of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But they haven't articulated that or made that as their
They're unaware.
campaign.
They're not consciously aware. Yeah, it's frustrating to see them just dip their toe into it and come back and it's like, no, you were right there.
Yeah.
So anyway, what I'm imagining is imagine the BC Libertarian Party, or sorry, the Canadian Libertarian Party of Canada takes me up on my branding and starts activating it, and then Musk sees it.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, that's what we're looking for, and then
Oh yeah.
because he just verbalized the very same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, they could also reference that too, like it's not just us saying this. Elon Musk said this as well, kind of thing. You would give credibility or
Yeah.
things, right? So you can
But and what I've done is so well in depth, and so comprehensive, and so ties together that it's not just an off the cuff thing.
Yeah. There's another interview I'm thinking of about slipped on my head was now. Probably Elon Musk, actually.
Yeah. Well, some people have been talking about the far left. The far right is not authoritarian and it's not the evil people.
Yeah.
Like Tommy Robinson in England. He's been saying that a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
And other people are kind of hinting at it. And there's videos showing that describing why the National Socialists, and I say National Socialist instead of Nazi because the National Socialists, they hide the name socialist by saying Nazi.
Right.
They contract it. But he like a 2.5, 3, maybe 4 hour video describing in depth why Nazis, National Socialists are actually far left.
Mhm.
And that the whole far right thing is just a fake out psyop.
Well, it's a way to just to make a label on something that you can say is bad,
Yeah.
and people don't think of it anymore, and just know that's bad.
Yeah.
Without any thought,
Without any thought.
no critical thinking, just a dissociation. You thought it was bad.
The
And
philosophy,
nobody can define it either,
right? If you ask them.
right?
Yeah, the philosophy meetup. I was talking to some people and I said that, and the guy across the way, oh no, you know, like he's yelling at me like that is so wrong. I'm like, okay, now defend your point of view. He's like, I'm just stomping my foot.
And the 2-year-old toddler stopping the foot again. Right? I want my toy.
Be careful, I'll start banging my head.
Yeah.
But anyway, so let's review the steps towards adulthood, which is inner significance, which gives rise to emotional maturity. And with emotional maturity, you can plumb the depths of critical thinking. Critical thinking leads to individualism. Because critical thinking, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to show you how little people actually think. And you're going to realize that you're all alone. Not all alone, but you're going to realize you are a unique individual with your own thoughts. But the thing is, you won't be able to handle that unless you have emotional maturity, which increases the depth of your critical thinking. But individualism is adulthood. It's a natural, good part of adulthood. And by the way, individualism is not conflated with lack of empathy or anything, or selfishness. And anyway, all those 4 lead to the final output of what I call a real adult. So, what I wanted to talk about today is inner significance. Because inner significance is the root of everything that follows. So, if you were to be able to instill inner significance to a very deep level, you're automatically going to get deeper depths of emotional maturity automatically. And those deeper depths of emotional maturity will lead to increased critical thinking. So you don't actually need to teach critical thinking. I mean, it's better to teach it. You get more power, but it will naturally arise. And then individualism comes. So the root of everything is inner significance. Now, maybe we know that unconsciously, but for us to actually make it a superpower, it has to become conscious, and we have to develop a language around it. So the reason I call it significance is for a reason, because I think that's far more descriptive. Some other people might call it self-worth. The other thing that might be called is ego. But I don't use those words because I don't think they actually describe the real situation. So the reason I use the word significance is because I think that a little child, a toddler, a newborn, their primary concern is to be significant. Right? They want to know, because they're helpless, what are they? They're still gestating outside the womb for another year. Or something like crazy like that, right? Meanwhile, other animals just pop out and start to run. All of their developmental windows have been passed while safely in the womb. The human child has got to spend a very vulnerable year outside the road, developing these, going through these developmental windows. So anyway, the little child cares mostly about being significant, because significance means they will survive. And what I mean by significance is significance to the tribe, to the mother, to the father, to the siblings, to the village. Because their radar is 100% focused on survival. Because if they're not significant, it means that they're crying and they're pleading and everything will not be heard, and they could actually be left behind in a ditch, which they will not survive. So 100% focused on external significance, which is, am I significant? I find out by looking at how other people treat me. Very natural, very feral, but very much a normal milestone. Um, so as a child grows, the 100% external significance as a toddler starts to switch now to inner significance. So we all need to be significant all our lives. That never goes away. It's just that it switches from external to internal over time. Right? It's just like food. We all need to eat, but at the beginning we're given food, and at the end of it we source our own food. Right? So that's another example of something that just never goes away. It's always there, but it switches 180 degrees to the other thing. So significance, like I said, it starts to grow in that there's more external significance. Sorry, there's more inner significance, and for every increment that inner significance grows, external significance diminishes. So it's always 100%, but it's going to be 80-10, 80-20, or 90-10, 80-20, 70-30, that type of thing. Now, why does inner significance grow? Is it because you tell your child that they're wonderful? And they go, oh, am I wonderful? Oh, I guess I'm wonderful. I don't think that's what it is. I think that when you tell a child that they're wonderful, they don't. That's not what they're really hearing. What they're hearing is, oh, you're addicted. That's what they really want to hear. You're addicted to me, which means your chances of dropping me off in a ditch are like greatly reduced. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, but the thing is, if the child feels externally significant, it reduces their reptilian fear,
Inner or external?
Oh, sorry.
You said external also.
Yeah, so at the beginning, they're 100% external. So they want more, let me just say, they're 100% external, but if they feel externally significant, the mother, the father, like the mother picks it up and her eyes dilate and she speaks in a kind way. The father is providing, and the siblings carry them around, right? This is all forms of external significance. And if I feel like you're all addicted to me, like you really, really, really care about me. At this point, the child can now relax, you see. I mean, the radar is always going, but it just has this feeling that I think I'm going to make it. They're not going to abandon me. They're not going to get tired of me. In fact, they're addicted. That's what the child cares about. I've said something kind of edgy, in which I said children don't need love, and people like freak out. Like, what do you mean? Of course, children need love. I say yes, but I'm just saying if you look at it really technically, what they really want is significance. That's the thing that is most important to them. Love is a vehicle for them to know they're significant. Love is not the end stage. Now, of course, love is the only way. Like the cuddling, the holding, and the sitting on the knee and all that stuff. That is love, and there's no other way to get it. You can't raise a child through Zoom meeting, right? So technically, it is kind of wrong to say children don't need love. But on the other hand, if you just look at it when it comes to what they really care about, love is just a vehicle for them to get significance. I can equally say that a child doesn't need to eat to grow. Because in that vein, children need nourishment to grow. Eating is just the vehicle to get the nourishment.
Definition of language in the correct term.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I just see it's kind of it's neither here nor there, but I'm just trying to highlight what they really, really care about.
Mhm.
You know, like you could say to a child, "Geez, I think you're just wonderful," and in their heads, what they're saying is, "Yeah, I know I'm wonderful, but you're addicted, aren't you? That's what I really care about."
Well, if you see the child will do that kind of stuff to say, to get up to your parents or let people's attention, right?
So say that again.
Well, the child will do things like make cute noises or do things
Mhm.
to attract the parent in that sense. Or break them up.
Right, right. So if you made these googly noises and nobody reacted,
Right.
then the danger just goes up.
Mhm.
And that actually leaves
No response, right?
no response, and then your radar just goes, wait, wait, wait. You know, this is dangerous.
Yeah, yeah.
So this kind of leads to my next point, actually, is that if the child is not feeling that external significance, their radar is going off at a high level because now they feel like they're in real danger.
Yeah.
And so they'll do anything to get that.
Right, right.
Right?
And this is where you see bad attention. If you can't get good attention, they'll go for bad attention.
Yeah.
Like, mommy, here's my picture. When mommy's too busy, they'll break the glass.
Right.
Now they get attention. There's bad attention, but it's still bad attention.
Right.
They have some significance. I mean, not really the ideal form of it.
Second best.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But they still got some, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, so the problem comes in though is that if the child's need for external significance is not met, then they're always on survival mode. The reptilian brain is completely taken over and they can't relax. The thing is that the growth of inner significance relies on relaxation. You got to feel safe. Otherwise, you have to go back to this reptilian type of focus on external significance. But when you're focusing on external to 100%, it restricts the growth of inner significance. Now, where does inner significance come from? It just grows. That's all I can say. It just happens of its own. So if you want inner significance to grow, you just have to release the pressure, and it will fill the void.
Oh, okay.
Right? So to release the pressure is give them external significance. Their reptilian brain will relax.
Right.
They will need less external significance, and inner significance will fill the void.
Oh, well, okay.
Right? So, and it does it on its own. You don't have to tell them they're wonderful.
Right.
They know they're wonderful.
Maybe you could say that they feel safe.
They feel safe, yeah.
Right.
The beginnings of inner significance are there,
Yeah.
right? Just a little tiny amount. There's not void of it,
No.
but it's very small.
Yeah.
But the thing is that if a child had inner significance from the beginning, what would that help him if he's left in a ditch?
Yeah.
You still die.
Yeah.
So it's not what you need at the youngster stage, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of gets into narcissism, childhood abuse, and all that, where if they lack if they're not getting enough external significance, and their alarm bells are just at 100% noise the whole time, then they're delaying the growth of inner significance. And actually, if it's really bad, there comes a developmental window actually that you go through where if your inner significance has not started growing, then it's stuck at that level forever. That door closes behind you. And this is what we call pathological narcissism. Pathological narcissism, I say emotional maturity a lot just because it's a word that people have heard. But really, what I should say is pathological narcissism is a deficit in inner significance. It is the most foundational part of a person's character that has just come to a complete grinding halt at the level of a 2 or 3 year old at the preschool level.
That's a good definition.
Yeah.
The deficit of
inner significance, that's right. Yeah. Because people say, well, pathological narcissists have no emotional maturity. Well, actually, they actually have emotional. They have an emotional life at the level of a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Except in an adult's body.
Yeah. They know how to manipulate.
Extremely.
Right. They know how to get it. They know how to get external significance as well.
Yeah. They're born manipulators
Yeah.
to get this,
Yeah.
and
So
so
you're
you
still stuck in that mode, right?
right. So you have an adult who is an absolute expert manipulator at 40,
Yeah.
with like a superpower that you couldn't believe.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah. So a slight segue here is that I also think that it's important to differentiate between the terms emotional maturity and emotional immaturity. So these are used interchangeably, right? But what I do is I use the word emotional immaturity only for the pathologically narcissistic, those who are in a forever condition of being at the level of a 3-year-old, and they will never get beyond that, so far as we know. Um, so, um, but the word emotional maturity is used for the rest of the population. In other words, it doesn't matter how many signs of narcissism that they show, their behaviors, they're not pathological. And what that means is they actually have the ability to increase along the spectrum of emotional maturity through therapy, help, or sometimes circumstances force you to have an emotional maturity, right? To increase your emotional maturity. So the reason I say that is because imagine you're a therapist and you are saying like, okay, so your parent was emotionally immature. So your pathologically narcissistic parent was emotionally immature. So now that's why you're struggling with emotional immaturity. You see how that you conflate them. So the way it should be used is your narcissistic parent was emotionally immature, and so you are now struggling with emotional maturity.
Right.
In other words, so what we're doing now is we're differentiating between the parent who is like pathological and they can't change, they never could love you, which is the biggest difficult thing that people have to let that go. But the words can force you to separate them as an unsalvageable. When it comes to loving you or being perfect, right? That's gone. That's done. And emotional maturity means, yeah, you may be low emotional maturity, medium, or wherever you are in that spectrum, but that's what you're there for. You can actually restart your emotional maturity if it's stalled or frozen, and start moving up along the spectrum of emotional maturity. It's possible. So that's why it's important to use those two. Now, so the thing is that you can. Okay, let's talk about. Well, okay, first I'll finish off the spectrum here. Is that you can have a pathological narcissist who is stuck at the level of a toddler emotionally, but they have worldly skills,
Oh yeah.
they have possessions,
Yeah.
they have a reputation that they've built, they have a society, they have adult brains and capabilities, but the emotional relative field, right?
Like a lot of our so-called authority figures or CEOs and people like that.
Yeah.
Maybe helping this category not always helping.
Yeah. Like I think of my own children, and the outrageous level of manipulation that these little creatures exhibited with us. I was going to say against us. It kind of was against us. It was like warfare.
Well, they're trying to dominate you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean,
Yeah. So and that's what,
under their thumb, right? I mean,
yeah. Like they loved, they just craved manipulation, probably with the end goal of domination. In other words, they're helpless little things. They don't have claws, teeth, or fur,
yeah.
but what they have is manipulation, and it's probably like far more effective than any of these things. And they would wield them with expert. Like I remember being totally manipulated, and my mother came along and just went, "Look what's going on," and like, "Oh, just blow my mind."
Like what's an example?
Oh, well, okay. So the baby would we put him to bed at whatever time at the night, and after feeding or whatever, and he would go to sleep, and then an hour later he'd wake up at 10 o'clock. Every single time crying. So the wife would go in there, pick him up, cuddle him, give him a little bit of a breastfeed, and he would go to sleep and she'd put him down, and then he'd wake up again. And this was just going on and on and on. And then my mother visited, and she was watching this going on. And then one day she went, "Oh my God, he's laughing!" And what she was is she was behind my wife, and when she put the baby up on her shoulder, the baby
Gotcha.
like
Yeah.
like this, right? And it's like, "Oh, you've been made."
Yeah.
So I mean, you've heard of like wild animals that are full, but they kill just because it's in their nature. They're not even hungry. Well, this is the child. Like they're just manipulating for the sake of manipulating. So another example. I mean, okay, the end result of that is that we put the child to bed and then didn't come to get him,
Right.
and he howled like a banshee. But then eventually he kind of went, "Okay, all right, I get it," and then he went to sleep. And then the next night, he went, put him to bed. Wah, wah. Oh, screw it. He just fell asleep and stayed
Right.
asleep. And that was the end of that.
Wow.
But I mean, the child,
It's
you
very
know,
common, yeah.
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 But the child can hear your footsteps.
Oh yeah.
So they go, okay, they're not here, but I can tell that sounds like mother's footsteps. And I can tell that sounds like father's footsteps. So I get it. They're here. It's no big deal. But he was so exhausted from the previous night, he just gave up. Like, I'm not going to win this one.
But part of it's also separation. Like, say for instance, you'll hear different stories of like, instead of having a crib, maybe the baby's in the bedroom with you, so it doesn't feel separate in a sense. It doesn't feel alone that way. You feel the body contact, you feel the heat kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then gradually they begin to separate from that as well. We should also begin to separate them from that as well.
Yeah.
Right? So that's another way that can take place, right?
Yeah. So, so they do need that closeness that builds that.
Which leads into why does a child like their teddy bear so much?
Mm-hmm.
The teddy bear is a transitional object,
Right.
i.e. a substitute for the parent.
Yeah.
This is my de facto parent, because
Right.
my parent's not here.
Yeah.
It's always here, it's always comfortable, it's safe, kind of thing, right?
And here's that's now the development of the replacement parent.
Exactly, yeah.
And the funny part is that like if the child is in their room and they can hear your footsteps, they can't see you, but they can go, "Oh, there's my mother."
Well, eventually they get to that stage where they can have more and more separation.
Mhm.
They can be further away from you from a longer period, right?
Right.
Not just in the house, but okay, when the child walks away from you, looks back, are you still there? Are you still there? Okay, you're still there. They can go further away, oh, I still feel safe. Oh, I have to go running back because I don't feel safe. I've gone too far.
Yeah. And it's a natural milestone.
Yeah.
So I think that also that external significance, too much external significance, starts to become poisonous.
Right.
Like it's 100% at birth.
Yeah.
But it needs to drop. And so one of the things that you want to do is to get the kid to jumpstart this replacement parent figure in its head. Because, so for example, putting my child in the room and not coming when they run, well, now they're using their brains to say, okay, I can tell they're over here and I can tell they're over there. I feel mollified because they are very close.
Yeah.
If I had a problem, I know they would come running.
Mm-hmm.
So then I go to sleep. So now you're becoming more independent, you know? So the problem that we can have is that, like, for instance, sleeping in your bed till they're 6.
Wow, that's too long, right?
That's too long.
Yeah.
And the thing is that's actually hindering
Yes.
the development of the replacement parent in the head. Because
The parent is always there.
the parent's always there and you're actually limiting their growth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and now at what stage to do that? But in my son's case, he was fine with it. You know, I could, you know.
It's just different methodologies. You see that with different, different, say, cultures or tribes over time. If you went to, some tribe from blah 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 from 300 years ago, that might have been common behavior.
Yeah.
But also because of we only have a small hut, there's no other room or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right, yeah.
but there's still a process of separation where then the child would begin to go further away from the parent. I'll go exploring and water in the woods, and then I feel safe in the woods by myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The parent just doesn't have to be 3 feet away from you all the time. Right?
Exactly, right? But the further away you go, that replacement parent soothes you.
Mhm.
It keeps you happy. And then that's what's interesting too is that replacement parent, when it's in your head, once it's in your head, you can actually do anything you want with it.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah,
you can make your parents into anything that you want.
Well, that's what Sigmar says. He says it's never too late to have a happy childhood.
Ah,
So, i.e., the replacement parent, oh, my parents were bad, or this happened, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, those things happen. But then now how do you reframe that?
right.
How do I view that at this point in time?
Yeah.
Okay, those things happen, but I'm okay now. I can have some happy experiences.
Mm-hmm.
What was the missing I wanted to have? I could give to myself.
Uh-huh.
Which becomes your own internal significance.
Right.
I can get that to myself.
Yeah. So anyway, we talked about what significance is, the difference between inner significance and external significance. And external significance is important, very important at a certain stage. But external significance becomes poison at a later stage. So as you grow, significance is never going to disappear. The need for significance, but inner significance must take over from external significance, and inner significance reaches its zenith in adulthood, where you are not really looking for feedback from society for you to decide who you are as a person, right? Or how significant you are. Internally, you've taken over a total grip of your significance and you generate that internally. Okay? One of the reasons that you can do that too is that as you practice things like emotional maturity, critical thinking, and individualism, you start to realize how little people think to begin with around, how much copying they do. So actually, there can come a point where it helps you with your inner significance because you realize it's actually just me. I have got to develop this myself. I cannot depend on people who don't think to tell me how to think. Right?
Yeah.
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 In fact, I have a saying.
Yeah.
Mark, how come you don't care what other people think? Because they don't.
Nice.
If they thought, I would care.
Yeah.
But generally they don't.
Yeah.
So this is an example where you start to care more about you take your own thinking more seriously. And even on another tack like that, little babies are copy machines. And it's a superpower at the baby stage. They can learn 4 languages by the time they're 3 if they're immersed in them. I mean, the copying is unbelievable, and you can't even match that as an adult.
And subconscious as well. It's not just it's far beyond what you hear or see, right? It's
right. They're just absorbing this stuff, right? But it's pure copying. There is absolutely no critical thinking happening. Okay. In fact, the story about that is that I was dressing my son for bed, and he was standing on the bathroom counter. And I said, and he said to me, "Dada, I put on pajamas now." And I said, "Yeah, we'll put on your pajumbis." And he went, "Pajamas?" I said, "Yeah, we're gonna put on your Palumbos." And he was like, "Dada, pajamas?" I go, "Yes, we're gonna put on your Panunis." I still remember the words I used.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Dada, pajamas?" Yes. Your paningos. He goes, "Dad, I want you to put on my palit. I want you to put on papa." And he went, he completely lost the word. So this is an example of the unbelievable copying machines they are. And even he was stunned at how he couldn't remember what the word was. But of course, as we get older, what we're supposed to do is to start coming out of this copying machine stuff. And we're supposed to realize that, wait a second, everybody around me is copying. So, like I said, with these words, you can eventually come to the point where you go, now, wait a second, what does this word even mean? You can question words once you realize that nobody has thought about these words. Everybody copies them blindly. So but the funny part is that I'm saying that's an adult behavior to be able to question things you've always thought were true and that the whole world thinks is true, and you can question them. Like I'm questioning the word ego as opposed to inner significance, right? Who am I to question world-renowned psychologists,
You're
right?
questioning Sigmund Freud.
Right?
How dare you, right?
Right? But the thing is that most people just copy. So the world is open to you to challenge anything. And if you go deep enough, there's a pretty high chance you're going to find out that it's not been thought through very well. But of course, if you do that, that means you are starting to dive into the area of individuality,
Yeah.
which can be too scary for people.
Yeah.
But anyway, I talk about this stuff and then I go off in tangents because actually I'm talking about inner significance, but actually it's so tied to everything else, right? It's not something you can really do you can't really do it in isolation, right? It's all tied in, right? Which is okay, but we have to isolate it so we can talk about it meaningfully. Um, so right. So anyway, just finish up saying that what we're talking about is all the way to the end now, where an adult should be mostly inner significance and not need hardly any external significance. Now people say, "Oh, you don't. How can you not care what people think about you?" That's not the same thing. Like I may dress nicely to impress in the specific circumstances, but the thing is that like if I'm going to be doing sales, right? I'm not going to show up in a burlap sack. But when we talk about caring what other people think about you, what I'm really meaning is for you to decide if you're significant. That's the point, right? Now, a lot of people my age say they just automatically start coming to that point. Like, I don't care what other people think. And it just happens naturally, right? But for the pathologically narcissistic, they're living that life from morning, noon, and night.
But that's
External
how,
significance.
That's how they get their significance.
Yeah.
By that, yeah.
Externally, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, another example of inner significance is that there was a swim club that we were part of, a summer swim club, and there it was kind of, now this is behind the scenes, I didn't realize it, but it was basically being taken over by 3 pathological narcissists on the board, and they went to kick out an innocent family, ignoring all the rules of how this was supposed to happen. The 3 of them just went and informed that family they're out of the club. Their little kids have been in for years and all that. And so basically, I told them that's going to happen over my dead body, and I better not hear another word about it. And so then they turned their guns on me, right? So they kind of forgot about that family, and they went after me, and then they started even threatening my kids and getting them kicked out and all that stuff. So they completely lost control of themselves. But I just stood there. I didn't react. They tried to do shaming. They tried to do threatening. They tried to even make me They tried to make me so disgusted with them that I would leave in disgust. Like they were willing to be disgusting. They didn't care as long as I would leave, and I didn't. And I hung on there long enough where a couple of other families backed me up, and then it was too late. Like 3 families out of 100, and that was death for the narcissist, right? They eventually all were run out of the club.
They were exposed. They exposed themselves.
They exposed themselves, right?
Yeah.
Because I hung in there. And I remember talking to a lady, one of the ladies that backed me up. I was talking to her much later, and she said, I was saying to her, how do we get the club so that it won't be vulnerable to this type of thing again? And she said to me, but Mark, not everybody doesn't care what other people think like you do. Okay? And I thought, isn't that normal? I mean, I know it's not normal because I just went up a whole bunch of people who the narcissists care what other people think about them, as in they want power, right, over these people. And the vast majority of the club did nothing because they cared what other people think about them. They just ran for cover, right? and they didn't care about the person left or right of them. They just looked after themselves.
Mhm.
The few people that helped me, and because I went first and they had the courage to stand up and do what's right, even they had no clue what I was up to. Like
Mhm.
they were like looking at me like, how did you do that? Like, And even I had two families say exactly the same thing to me. They said, Mark, I'm glad that you are standing up to the board, but I would never put my children in danger like that. Right? So what I realized by that is that those two families knew more about the situation than I did earlier.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I was clueless until I heard about this thing I wanted to expel the family.
Mhm.
So they sat there, they knew about it, and they did nothing. And then when I did something, they actually tried to take the moral high ground above me.
I always knew.
Well,
Sorry,
no,
sorry.
no, it wasn't
no.
so much I always knew. Like, I mean,
Okay.
what they were saying is that I admire you for doing what you're doing,
Uh-huh.
but I would never expose my children to that danger.
Okay.
So, in other words, they're excusing their lack of action by saying they're a better parent than me. You see? I mean, the cowardice was
It's convoluted. I mean,
unbelievable. Like, if you know and you know everything, you're worse because you
took
knew
no action, right? I mean,
you
yeah,
knew
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And then it's even more cowardly
Yeah.
because you can't even face your cowardice.
Mhm.
You have to like take the moral high ground above the one that's actually doing
But
something.
you're trying to justify yourself, right?
Yeah. You can't even face up to your failure
Mhm.
and you raise yourself above the one that did something. Unbelievable. I mean, I was more shocked at those two parents that told me that. And by the way, they used the same sentences.
Oh, wow.
They said exactly the same thing. Mark, we admire you for doing what you're doing, but we would never expose our children to that danger.
Mhm.
I'm just saying, but what about the danger to the other families?
Well, yeah.
What about the danger to the other children?
Ongoing,
Yeah.
present, and future.
And
past,
also, I just proved that there was no danger to my children
Yeah.
because standing up to them, they retreated
Mhm.
and they made fools of themselves, and then they were all thrown out of the club,
Mhm.
by the way. In fact, one guy behaved so badly that his boss at work threatened to fire him unless he quit the club.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So there was this thing where says, "Oh, we're going to go off to do this other sport," and I'm like, "I know exactly what's going on."
yeah.
Right? So my point is that to practice inner significance can make you completely alone. But the thing is that if you do have a lot of inner significance, being alone doesn't mean anything. Right?
Mhm.
Because the level of individualism is so high.
Right.
I can stand up to a whole crowd because they're either narcissists or weaklings.
Yeah.
What's the problem?
Right.
Right? If I can't dominate a room full of narcissists who are 3-year-olds and weaklings, my question is, who the hell am I?
Yeah.
If I can't do that, what's wrong with me?
It's like,
Actually,
yeah. It's like there's a field of lambs and you can't take care of them or something, right?
yeah. You can't herd a bunch of lambs. Like, what kind of a shepherd are you? I'm
Yeah.
not saying I'm a shepherd,
No,
but that's an example, right? And yeah, but anyway, the woman was flabbergasted. In her conversation with me, she was flabbergasted. She goes like, "How do you not care what other people think about you?" And she's admitting that
because
she does.
Most people feel dependent. They're so dependent upon the validation, the significance of the crowd, the tribe, the community,
Yeah.
to belong, to fit in,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
And she's in her
because
50s.
they aren't that. Because they aren't that.
Yeah.
They aren't individual. They aren't adults, right?
Yeah. And so the thing is, she's in her 50s,
Mhm.
and she did not ally herself with the pathological narcissist because
Right.
if she were, that's what she would have done
Yeah.
for the power. They would have all come together for the power. And she is completely unknown how I did that or how I achieved that. She's admitting that she desperately cares what other people think about her. And yet she's one of the only two families that came to my rescue and did the right thing.
Mhm.
And so imagine what the rest of the people are like.
Mhm.
Never mind the narcissist. What do you think the bulk of the people are like?
Mhm.
And then those two people came up to me and tried to take the moral high ground over me. Like, we're actually better than you because we care about our children. But you know what I've heard? I've heard a saying. It says that the unvirtuous are completely confused by the actions of the virtuous.
Well, so it's convoluted because they're thinking that they're keeping their children safe by not doing that,
Hmm.
but they're still all in danger. And
They actually are in
they
danger.
are in danger, and the whole group is actually still in danger.
Right.
You're just sitting there with the wolf in the field and hoping. I hope today the wolf won't eat me today, right? I mean,
Right.
I hope you won't eat me today.
They're putting their head between their
Yeah,
knees.
exactly.
If it's not me, it's going to be them next.
But I won't say anything, right? I mean, typically, right? I mean,
Yeah.
oh, good thing they ate him, not me.
Oh, I tell you, that was the most
Wow.
amazing experience of my life. I have never felt more alone and more adult, but happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think that I had practiced before that. I had done several little things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what was interesting about that is that when the father came up to me and explained what they were trying to do to him and his family, he came up to me separately. I was saying, that's kind of strange. And he said, I've already told 13 families about this. You're like number 14.
Okay.
And he said, all of them said the same thing. Why are they doing this? This is not right. I would never do this. But then they stayed silent.
Stops there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they have this moral thing, but they're not moral because they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
What I said is what happened with me is that I went to talked to another mom. I said, did you hear what they're going to do to this family? And she goes, yes, well, actually, I'm on the board.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know that. And she says, well, it's because it's necessary to do it, and they've been pushing us too hard and all that, right? And I said, well, I tell you what, if I hear another goddamn word about this, I'm going to come in there and I'm going to knock some heads together. Metaphorically, of course, right? Mm-hmm. And then I know that she ran to the board and told them, like, Mark is not on board. Mm-hmm. And they thought that
danger.
Yeah, they thought they had it all locked up.
Yeah.
They thought everybody was scared into submission. Kind of sounds like today, right?
Well, like most things.
Yeah.
Things, right?
Everyone was scared nobody would move, but they freaking didn't count on me.
Mm-hmm.
So, so then they phoned me up in a panic. And he says, we got to do this. Oh, here's another good one. I forgot about this. The president phoned me up, and he's saying, Mark, I hear you're not on board with this, but we got to do this. I said, just listen to this story, this metaphor. If you need to cross a river, this is so funny. I swear I made this up on the spot. I do not know where I would have, and I never thought about, or maybe I thought about it before, but I swear I did not read it anywhere. I said, if you need to cross a river, you do not go into the river before you know if there's poisonous fish in there, right? So the way you do it is you prick your finger and you drop some blood in the river before you set foot. Those poisonous fish that depend on camouflage to survive, they will be driven mad by the smell of blood, and they will come to the surface despite themselves, and they will show themselves. And I said, there's blood in the water, and I'm watching.
That's awesome, man.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I swear I didn't read it anywhere. I just made it up.
Wow.
And then that was the end of it. The whole thing collapsed. Well, it didn't collapse right there. Is that they turned their guns on me.
Right.
They forgot about the family.
Right.
And they realized, oh,
danger.
Right.
Yeah.
So actually, and another funny thing that happened was that I went. Okay, well, I should say that the way it happened is that they got the head coach to call me in for a meeting, right, about my son, right? And those two other families were there to listen.
Okay.
And the head coach was all flustered, like, "What are they doing here? This is a private meeting. No, we're gonna hear what you have to say." And then as she started opening her mouth, they just roasted her. They just shut her down and roasted her like horribly. And so they were totally on my side. I didn't even have to say nothing. They were there just tearing her ass out, right?
Okay.
And but of course, the head coach was sent to do this job. Of course, by like a flying monkey, sent by the Wizard of Oz to go and do the dirty work, while these scumbags sit back there and they wash their hands of it. And she willingly, because she's being paid, she willingly goes in there and does their job for them, but she got roasted like hell. So anyway, at the end of the day, like I said, they all got washed out of the club and gone, and they threatened to leave, and they were all up. But what was I going to say? Um, oh, it'll come to me. But anyway, so that was a general drama. But the reason for talking about this drama is I'm saying there is an immense power in inner significance. You can be an individual. You can see things. You can see the world as it really is. You've got no problem being independent and standing on your own 2 feet. You can do critical thinking, and even if it takes you to a very emotionally disturbing place, you still allow yourself to go there. Oh, and that reminds me what I was going to say. What I was going to say is that at the beginning, after I talked to that woman, and I told her I'm going to this ends right now. I don't want to hear another word about it. I had a flash of fear. Like, oh my goodness, what am I stepping into here? I'm really exposing myself. I'm really opening myself up. But then I thought to myself, what am I afraid of? Like, think about it. So then I went ahead anyway. But my point is that I was not free from at least a momentary flash of fear.
Yep.
Where I really should run from this.
But that's where your emotional maturity kicked in and said it's just credible or not credible.
Exactly. I decided that, and the thing is, when I said it wasn't credible, the fear didn't disappear.
No.
There was still the fear was there,
right.
but I decided that it's not something to be paid attention to, and I went on, and it turns out I was right. It turns out that there was nothing to be afraid of, and it's like I stepped into a new room, and actually that fear came out of nowhere. Like, I said what I said to her, and I was determined, and only afterwards did I go, what have I stepped into here? So anyway, so you see how it's all connected. It's all connected, but it's all based on the root of inner significance. Everything flows from there. So how are we doing for time here? 10. Okay. So so people might ask now, how do I develop inner significance in my child? Because if you try to teach critical thinking, you're kind of like trying to go backwards. You're trying to swim upstream, Or if you try to teach emotional maturity after the horse has left the gate, you're going upstream. If you have a child, if you want to get all the benefits downstream for free, focus on inner significance. Give them what they want. Give them the external significance and then start releasing the reins, right? And allowing their inner significance to grow. So now we get into this issue where people are going to go, well, I'm not a perfect person. So I was abused. I was not given a good example. And I don't think there's a way that I could ever raise a child properly. In fact, I'm afraid of being a parent. If you say you're afraid of being a parent and you're worried about what damage you might do, you have just qualified to be a good parent.
Yeah, because you're self-aware of this and that, right?
Exactly.
Self-aware of how did I grow up, what my parents were like, what I would want and stuff like that, and the underlying desire to do better.
Right. You're on tippy toes.
Yeah.
And you will make a mistake, but then the minute you make a mistake, it'll hammer you and then you'll go to fix it.
Well, it's all progress, right? It's all progress, evolution, process. I mean, we're all going to make mistakes. You make mistakes because as a parent, myself, it's like I do something and be aware, and then it's all going well, and something will come up, and I react. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's from my father. That's what my father would say.
Right? Yes.
Some people say I'm my father because it's there in you.
Yeah.
But then when that comes out, you go, oh, where's that coming from? Oh, it came from my father did this. He behaved that way. He said that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. Right? Okay. Back to the drawing board a bit there, right?
Yeah.
There's some process.
Yeah, and I have screwed up, and in fact, I remember screwing up just like my father screwed up.
Yeah.
And I was worried about screwing up, and I did anyway.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I recognized it, and I was rueful. So in the balance, if it only happens a few little times, in the balance overall is what really counts.
Well, it's also how you deal with it. say it happened many times, you go, wait, I did that. Oh, okay. Wait, I did it again. But at least you have some awareness of that,
Hmm.
and you begin to change. But I mean,
Yeah.
there may be many things like that because you're maybe also not being very mature or have a lot of stuff to deal with yourself, just in your own life, whatever. But you go, oh, what's this about? Oh, what's that about? Okay, then you can clean it up,
Hmm.
and you can change your behavior, change your attitude.
Exactly.
So,
And sometimes it can be just cowardice to not want to see you ever fail. You know, it's cowardice.
yeah,
Like, get a grip. Don't just run from the problem. You know. So anyway, the reason I say that is because you might say, "Oh, how am I going to raise a child with inner significance when I feel like I don't have it?" Well, I have a story about a guy who, in my eyes, he should not have been able to raise a daughter properly. When he had a daughter, I'm like, "Oh my God, this is not going to go well." But every time I went to visit him, he always had the same story for me. Like his daughter was maybe 3 or 4, and he's always so freaked out about his daughter, about what she's going to turn into, that he would constantly verbalize to me, "What am I going to do? I can't, But because he had an experience with lots of lonely girls that were throwing themselves at him and making complete fools of themselves, because he was very handsome, and so he not a lot of morals either. So he was not worried about his daughter. Is she going to be like that? Like he's freaking out. He wouldn't shut up about it, right? And then one day I came and visited him again, and he never said anything about his daughter. And I was like, okay, so finally I said, "Hey, you never mentioned anything about your daughter." He goes, "Yes, yes, I talked to a guy. I told him the same thing I told you as blabbing about my daughter." And he told me, he said, "Look, girls go off the tracks if they don't get enough physical affection from their father." So he told him, "You put her on your lap,
yep.
you cuddle her, you kiss her, you talk to her, you read to her, and you keep doing it until she pushes you away.
Right.
And then you know you've done enough."
Right.
So I said, "Did you do that?" And he goes, "Yeah, I did." I said, "Did she push you away?" "She never pushed me away." Okay?
No, yeah.
Yeah. So, so the story there is that literally this guy was too immature to raise, too low maturity, I should say, too immoral to raise a daughter. And she turned out, by the way, she turned out fantastic. She married to a man who loves her dearly, treats her like gold. It was like her first boyfriend. I don't know, but she didn't have very. But he was like, they got married fairly early, and she is like a complete wonderful girl. Complete mismatch. I hope he doesn't watch this. But anyway, I think you'll know what I mean. He knows the whole story. So anyway, oh, and by the way, yeah, his son, the older son, he turned into a drug addict, like a marijuana abuser, and couldn't hold a job to the point where he got blacklisted. But I remember that kid. He was a smart kid. He was a wonderful child at that age. But the father never hugged him or kissed him or put him on his lap or read stories to him. He tried to figure, oh, I've got to like brutalize him so he doesn't turn gay.
Yeah, it has to be a man.
Yeah, that's right.
Or don't cry.
Yeah.
Or they can't cry, they can't have feelings.
Yeah, right.
Don't be a sissy, these things are more,
Yeah.
right?
So he focused on the daughter so intensely, but then the boy turned out like I thought the boy would have turned out.
Right. But that's also like a textbook case. If you have this where your cup is filled,
Yeah.
my cup is filled with insignificance, this can happen.
Mhm.
It's not filled, this can happen.
Mhm.
Basically, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. From the
It's actually
same
a
father.
Great modeling example
Right.
of the parenting, the maturity, and what can happen from that.
Right. And it also goes to the main point about inner significance in the reptile mind. The reptilian brain that just wants to know that they're significant, right? So by holding her, cuddling her, and all that stuff, he was still a bit of a jerk while he's doing that.
Yeah, but she was able to develop regardless of that.
Exactly, because her reptilian brain just is intaking the significance. Like she said, "Oh, you're addicted, aren't you? I can tell you're addicted. You won't abandon me." And then her inner significance is allowed to just grow. So, and what I'm saying is that you can be a complete dork.
Yep. Oh yeah.
you can be damaged from childhood. But if you just do that, you don't have to have like parenting wisdom.
Yeah.
If you understand the mechanism and the word is significance, then you can give that to your child. Of course, the downside is your child will rocket past you. Like they will surpass your emotional age in no time at all. Some people would think that that's a real downside.
Well, it can be a threat. It can be a threat to the parent, right? For some parents, they want to keep them. Just want to be the parent, want to be the one in charge, and
Yeah.
you should not go past me. Right?
Yeah.
That's not immaturity as well.
That's right. Another point about immature versus mature is that that man I'm talking about, that father, if he were a pathological narcissist, I'm kind of saying that he's kind of a jerk, right? But actually, if he were a pathological narcissist, he would never have allowed that to happen. Never in a million years, right? So he's displaying signs of narcissism, but he can handle his daughter rocketing past him in maturity,
Yeah.
in inner significance, right? No pathological narcissist would allow that in a million years. No, they would destroy that. Okay? So anyway, I'm just saying this is a helpful sign of how to actually create widespread inner significance in the population just by doing that. You don't need to go to like parenting classes for 2 years to figure this out. Um, and also, there are some family cultures where they don't hug and they don't do the physical contact or anything else. Well,
Yeah.
the thing is, how do you give a child what you never had? Because if you're craving it, then the only way to stop craving it is to forget about it. To just put it in the back of your mind. I didn't want it anyway, right? And that never leaves you.
Trying to justify it, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
very,
It hurts,
yeah, it's, the need has not been fulfilled, right?
right? So you bury it and say, I don't care about that. But then what happens when your kid comes along and says, I want that? Well, you can't give it to your kid without remembering your own misplaced needs.
Well, you might give it to yourself in that moment if you're sort of allowed that. I mean,
I think so.
you can on the one side you can give it to yourself.
Yeah,
You can never sneak a hold myself.
Yeah.
Like touch myself,
Yeah.
to like
Yeah.
give myself some contact.
Mm-hmm.
But also by being there with my child, oh, this feels good. I like this,
Mm-hmm.
and that might also feed my inner significance because I've learned that by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, may not be even aware of it,
Yeah.
but you might sort of get that indirectly, right?
Yeah. So what you're saying is you can heal yourself
Yes.
by giving it to someone else.
Well, shoot two ways: by giving it to yourself or to
Mhm.
somebody else.
Yeah. Giving it to someone else.
Indirectly, they give it to you.
Exactly.
In a
Yeah.
sense, right? Like a pet's a great example, right?
Yeah.
The dog is always happy to see you.
Yeah.
Oh, Mark, you're the best ever.
Yeah,
Every
yeah.
single time you come home, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Mark, I'm happy to see you. You're the best ever.
Do you know what I just did today?
And you think, oh, it feels good. I like that, right?
Yeah.
Why doesn't my wife do that?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
What if your wife said sometimes, she said, hey, Mark, you're awesome. You're a star, man.
Yeah.
You know? Back to the story of taking out the garbage. Like you say, I said, yeah, you need to take out the garbage. Mark, you didn't take out the garbage. Mark, you'd be a superstar to take out the garbage from. Oh, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
You
Do you have another one for me?
Yeah, exactly. What else can I do, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
they also feed into that positive significance and hormones. And I'm the provider here. I'm the strong man.
Right. So I'm just saying is that there will be a point where somebody can actually face up to their own needs. They'll crash into their own needs when they try to give the child their needs. Right? So a lot of people can just not give the child their need because they can't face what they've been hiding. So you can't, in other words, you can't give the child what they need without you remembering what you never got.
Right.
So you're going to have to like want to do this, but if you do it, it will help you to heal finally. So do it. Anyway. So my boys, I'm a very huggy person and very physically affectionate. And my boys are so emotionally solid that I don't worry about their behavior. They grow out of everything on a regular basis. It's even to the point where my older son has said, I've never met anyone like myself. you know, like he was in a bar and downtown Vancouver, and he's 6'5", and a guy bigger than him tried to pick a fight with him, and he gave him a dressing down and a tongue lashing from hell. He basically said, "Is this a bar? Or is this our kindergarten? Grow up!" Like he just did this whole adult thing to him,
Yeah.
and that guy slunk away immediately and disappeared into the crowd. His friends came up to my son and apologized for him. Oh, he was just having a bad day, or whatever. And then the guy himself came up to my son and personally apologized to my son for his behavior. Right? So, what my son did wouldn't have hurt so much had he punched him in the face.
Yep. Yeah.
It hurt more.
Yeah.
But anyway, my son just expanded himself and just went, "Who is the child here and who's the adult?" Like that. And I'm thinking to myself, I never actually taught him that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he did it exactly how I would have.
Okay.
And he just, not only did he fuse the thing, the guy crawling back to him on his hands and knees, because guess why? An adult actually showed up for once.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is my point, is that the inner significance that they can get early, it just grows, and everything, you just get everything downstream from there. Everything downstream. You don't have to work so hard giving them. I don't give my boys advice and morals and all that stuff. It just grows in them. So anyway, that is our little discussion about inner significance, the important role of it, how you can actually foster it in your children, and how you can foster it in yourself. Part of fostering it yourself can be just giving it to others, especially your children. So I think that's about the end of the recording now. And enjoy, everybody.